In this video, I'll be talking about the different focus modes and areas available on the Sony Alpha cameras. But honestly, every camera has something like this. Focus is one of the most critical aspects of capturing a great image, especially if you want the correct subject you chose in frame, clear and well in focus. Understanding the focus modes on your camera can help you get the perfect shot every time, ensuring you won't have to struggle in the field with focus and potentially miss your shot. In this video, I'll go over each of the focus modes and areas and explain why I may use a particular mode in a certain situation over another. So let's get into it. With focus modes, I mainly use three modes: single shot autofocus mode, continuous autofocus mode, and manual mode. Starting off the focus mode portion of this video, the first focus mode we'll be discussing is single shot autofocus mode. This mode is perfect for when the subject is stationary and not moving. When you have pressed your shutter button, the camera will focus on the subject and continue to lock the focus down until you press the shutter button all the way down to take the shot. This essentially allows you to keep focus and recompose your shot if needed, as your focus is locked. You can move up or down, left or right, and the subject you chose will remain in focus. The camera won't continue to hunt for focus. That is why this mode is great for stationary subjects. I find scenes where subjects are sitting and relaxing, chatting with each other on the street, or even something like a vast cityscape, perfect for this focus mode. However, the one aspect you have to be careful of is going forwards or backwards when holding down your focus. Once you lock your focus and you have pressed the shutter, you are essentially locking down the focus on your subject. If you continue to hold that focus while moving closer or further from your subject, you will see your scene or subject get out of focus. That is because the distance between your camera and the subject is changing while the focus you set on your camera is not. It's a very simple fix though. All you need to do is let go of the shutter and refocus on your subject and you're good to go. The next focus mode is continuous autofocus mode. This mode is perfect for capturing moving subjects or objects, such as sports, wildlife, and moving cars or people. With continuous autofocus mode, the camera will continually adjust focus on the subject as it moves around the frame, ensuring that the subject remains sharp and in focus. As long as your object is in frame and in your focused area, it will remain in focus. For subjects that are moving across the street in street photography, or for when my subject is moving from pose to pose during portraits, I find using continuous autofocus mode to be the most convenient. But of course, like the single shot autofocus mode, there's one thing you should look out for, because the camera will continue to hunt for focus as long as you hold down the shutter button. It will focus on anything that might move into frame or your focus point. This could result in your focus changing at the last second and potentially ruining your shot, which is especially true when the subject is still and then moves suddenly. The third focus mode is manual focus mode. In this mode, you have complete control over the focus of your camera. You can adjust the focus by turning the focus ring on your lens until you achieve the desired focus. This mode is particularly useful in low light conditions where autofocus may struggle. This is my last resort focus mode, where autofocusing just won't get the job done. This rarely happens, but I have had to manually focus in certain situations where the camera wouldn't be able to pick focus up. There are also times where I want to focus on a subject behind an object, such as this photo right here. I wanted to focus on this man right here, but this cover was in front and my camera had focused on it instead. I didn't notice this until after the shoot, and by then it was already too late. Manually focusing in the scene would have allowed me to get the shot that I wanted to get instead. Now that we have gone over the focus modes and why one mode may be better to use than another mode, there's another aspect of focusing we need to go over. That would be the focus area. Focus mode is choosing how you will focus, whether that's manual focus or autofocus, whereas focus area is selecting what section of your frame will be available for the autofocus to target and lock focus. The first focus mode we'll be discussing is the single point focus area. This is where the camera only focuses on one single point in the frame. This is useful for when you want precise control over where the camera focuses. With a lot of my compositions, I know what I want and where I want my subject to be. So I use this focus setting and place the focus point in position, ready to take the photo. Once I have my subject in the focus point, I hold down the shutter button and I take the photo. This is the focus area I use the most often, as it's very straightforward and it's simple. If I mess up my focus, 99.9999% of the time, it's my fault. So there's really no one to blame but myself. The technology, the autofocus, didn't accidentally focus on something else. I did. This focus area is the expanded flexible spot focus area. This focus area is basically the same as a single point focus area, but provides more flexibility in terms of the size and position of the focus point. If the camera can't find focus within the main focus spot, it expands the focus area around the spot, as you can see with the little squares around the main square. I'll sometimes use this, but I still mainly use a single point focus area. The next focus area is the zone focus area. This area is particularly useful when you're shooting subjects that are moving around within the frame within your zone focus area. With the zone focus area, you can select a group of focus points and the camera will automatically track the subject as it moves around within that zone. For situations when I'm walking around the city and I can't stop to get a photo for whatever reason, I'll opt to walk past my subject and take a couple of shots with this focus mode and have the camera help me with getting the subject in focus. This also helps me when I don't quite want to draw attention to myself. I can quickly get into a scene, get the shot, and leave all within just a couple of seconds, especially once I have the particular composition thought of already. It's a lot less attention I'd get compared to being in the scene, holding the camera chest level, or peeking through my viewfinder, then taking the photo. With this focus area, I use maybe 15% of the time. If possible, I still prefer to use a single point focus area as it's more precise. But whenever I can let the camera help, as long as it doesn't get in the way, I let it. The last focus area is the wide focus area. Honestly, I never really use this mode. It's pretty unreliable in a sense of the camera can't read your mind. This area automatically selects the focus point based on the scene, and there's nothing limiting the camera. This is basically the equivalent of full auto, but for the focus area. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If it works for you, then that's great. All the power to you. But I find for me, it gets more in the way than actually helping. You may want a certain spot to be where you want in focus, but the camera will think something in the foreground is what should be in focus instead. While you're trying to get the camera to focus where you want, the scene might have already changed, and just like that, you've lost your shot. I certainly have had that happen even with zone focus area. So adding more areas for the camera to focus is just gonna cause even more errors and mishaps. So those are the modes and focus areas. There are a couple of other modes and areas, but these are the ones that I use or I found I should at least mention. Each mode and area has its own specific use cases, and understanding them can really help you take your photography to the next level. Knowing our camera is essential, so the time in the field is spent doing what is most important, taking photos, rather than wrestling with our camera settings and being frustrated. Remember to experiment with different focus modes and areas and see what works best for you in your shooting style. Please consider hitting the subscribe button if you enjoyed this content. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Later.